Yo, what's happening? I am here at the scouting camp kitchen, assessing and trying to figure out what's going on with our ice maker here. What's happening is that the ice maker is throwing a code that says HC0. I don't need to show you it. It says HC0, HPC. No, right? HPC. High pressure cutoff. It's throwing a high pressure cutoff switch, which is, I believe, that little device right there, because you don't want the pressure building up too high on the high side of that refrigerant line, high side of the compressor, because that obviously can cause some issues. Well, I say obviously, but if you're not an HVAC person, you really don't know. And I'm not really an HVAC person. I'm just a glorified generalist. I love to get into everything, so I wouldn't say I know a little bit about a lot. I know quite a bit about a lot. And that's not tooting my own horn, but it is tooting my own horn. So what I did to diagnose what's going on with this is I stood here and I listened, and while I was trying to fire up, and right now you can hear everything's running just fine, but what it was doing was the fan motor wasn't coming on a lot. It would come on for a second and then shut off, and the unit would run for a little bit and then it would shut itself down and throw that high pressure cutoff switch. So I had to ask myself, why is that fan not running? Because what that fan's going to do is it's going to pull the hot air out away from the condensing coil on the back side of the unit here, and that's going to remove the heat, and that's going to lower the pressure that's going to be on the high side of that condenser. At least that's how I understand it. So if the high pressure switch is throwing and that fan's not going continuously, then it must be something with the fan. That's where my mind went. So what I did was I found let me switch the camera around. So I found the high pressure cutoff switch, which is right there. It's kind of easy to find because they did a nice job and labeled the wiring. It says fan CYC, fan cycle switch. There goes the ice. So I took it, and you can see I put a little jumper in between it. That jumper is just basically as if the switch had been switched, and it's saying, fan, come on. As soon as I did that, fired up the machine, and now she's running just fine. I don't want to leave it this way. This is just for diagnostic purposes, because that fan cycle switch is obviously there for good reasons, running efficiently, and if you're running this in cold environments, you don't want it to be too cold on that high pressure side. You want it to have some warmth. So anyway, long story short, I figured out what the problem is, but to fix this darn little switch, it is raised under the coolant lines. So that means that you've got to purge the coolant out of the system. I'm not EPA certified, though I think I should probably become it, because I do so much work on these refrigerant systems as part of these camps. There's a lot of stuff, and I save them a lot of money doing it, but you got to be EPA certified in the country, in the United States, to deal with refrigerant like that. And then also you got to do things like purge it with nitrogen and then pull a vacuum and all kinds of fancy things with these refrigerant systems. I love it, but I'm not certified, and so I can't get into it just yet, but I would love to do it. So anyway, Jesus Christ, I figured I would just come on here and just explain a little bit more about what kind of fun things I get into. And the diagnostic side of things, I love figuring out what actually is the problem. One good thing about that is that I can point the HVAC tech in the right direction. Whether he listens to me or not is the other question. But I'm usually right. And hopefully save him some time in the diagnostic side, but we'll see. All right, have fun. I'm gonna just take my little, I unplugged the unit there so I don't shock myself. I'm gonna take my little jumper out of there. So when the HVAC guy gets here, he's not like, oh my God, what did you do? Yep. There. And we'll plug that back in the way it was, which was this side, I don't think it matters what side that switch plug is. I'm going to plug her back in, and I'll show you what happens. so you can get the full sense of this thing. All right, she's plugged back in. And there she goes. Oh, look, it shut right off. That didn't even give me a second. All right, let's try this again. Power off. See that little light there? That's just telling us that we've got an error. There, unit's on. It's gonna sit like this and run for about 30 seconds. So I'm not gonna make you wait for that. I'll turn this back on when we get there. All right, she's kicking on. You can hear the compressors coming on right now. And then what should be happening as this high pressure side heats up and pressurizes, it should kick that fan on, but the fan's still not on. See, it's still not running. Oh. Looked like it tried, like it wanted to kick on. Yeah, she's not trying to spin. I just manually spun it, make sure it was free. But still not coming on. Doesn't necessarily have to. If it's a cold day, it might not call for the fan to be on. That's the whole point of this fan cycling switch, is it's supposed to come on when it thinks it needs it at a certain pressure. I don't have the equipment to test the pressure. I have to diagnose it a different way with a lack of that equipment. Yeah, still see it's not coming on. So if this high pressure switch throws itself again, like, oh, it just did. See, HTCO, high pressure, something or other. I don't really know what that stands for. High pressure cutoff. Yeah, that's probably what it is. High pressure cutoff. Anyway, there she be. By bypassing that switch, it works. So in my powers of deduction, it's got to be that switch. But maybe I'm wrong. You tell me.